It was just wrong. And that's all it comes down to.
How about another? To center field, Josh Hamilton on an unstoppable tear in Baltimore.
Those actions of mine have hurt a lot of people that are very close to me.
And wait a minute! Did that go where we think it went?
Fans, kids, people who have addictions, look to me, look up to me. I apologize to you.
Stephen A., take away the drugs, take away the alcohol. I think Josh Hamilton could have been the greatest player ever.
Wow. Picture this. You're standing in the batter's box at the original Yankee Stadium. The crowd of 53,000 is on their feet, chanting your name. You're about to put on the most legendary home run derby performance in baseball history. Now imagine that just 6 years earlier, you were lying on your grandmother's doorstep at dawn, your body wasted away from convinced you were going to die. This is the Josh Hamilton story. A tale so wild, so heartbreaking, and so unbelievable that even Hollywood couldn't have scripted it. From being the #1 overall pick in the 1999 MLB draft, to becoming a crack addict banned from baseball, to then an MVP season worth $125 million, to losing it all again. Few athletes have ever experienced such extreme highs and devastating lows. But here's the thing that makes Josh Hamilton's story so fascinating and so tragic. This isn't just about baseball. This is about the most dangerous opponent any athlete can face, themselves. Now, before we get into the video, we're doing a huge giveaway on our road to 25,000 subscribers. If you have your notifications turned on and you're subscribed to the channel, we're giving away an MLB official jersey every single week. So if you haven't already done that, please do that now. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. Let's rewind to 1999. Josh Hamilton was everything you could want in a baseball prospect. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina, this kid was an absolute freak of nature. Standing 6'4" and weighing 240 pounds, he could run the 60-yard dash in 6.7 seconds and threw 97 miles per hour off the mound as a high school senior. But here's where it gets insane. As a hitter, he hit .529 with 13 home runs, 20 stolen bases, 35 RBIs, and 34 runs scored in just 25 games. That's video game numbers right there. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays didn't hesitate. They made him the #1 overall pick in the 1999 MLB draft, passing on guys like Josh Beckett and Barry Zito. This was supposed to be their franchise savior. Baseball America named him High School Player of the Year. USA Baseball called him Amateur Player of the Year. Josh Hamilton play had the same reaction. This kid
Josh Hamilton
was special. In his first professional season with the Princeton Devil Rays, Hamilton showed flashes of brilliance. Then in 2000, he moved up to Charleston and hit .300 with 13 home runs.
He was only
in
19.
Games. The future was looking incredibly bright, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them.
This was the real life.
Someone got him
natural.
into that
This
shit,
was 6 feet
to that
4
substance
inches,
abuse bullshit.
240 pounds, and
He
I've
met
not
someone that
heard
shit got
any
him into it.
PED suspicions
'Cause he was
surrounding
really good
Josh
before.
Hamilton. A lot of other drug suspicions, but not those drugs.
August 2000, Josh
That
Hamilton
sucks.
was having a solid season when a back injury ended his year early. No big deal, right? I mean, injuries happen in baseball, but this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would consume the next several years of his life. 6 months later, in February 2001, Hamilton was involved in a serious motorcycle accident that left him with major injuries to his neck. Suddenly, this indestructible athlete was dealing with chronic pain and extended time away from the game he loved. And here's where the story takes a dark turn. With all this free time on his hands, unable to play the sport that defined his identity, Hamilton found himself hanging out with the wrong crowd. What started as innocent trips to tattoo parlors quickly spiraled into something much more dangerous. On the surface, Hamilton was just a normal guy who had 32 tattoos, but the inspiration and motivation for them was what made them troubling. Think about this for a second. Here's a kid who had never touched drugs or alcohol in high school, whose biggest concern was which MLB team would draft him first, and within 2 years, he was battling demons he never knew existed, and the injuries just kept piling up. Another injury cut short his 2001 season. Then in 2002 was awash with more injuries. By 2003, Hamilton had missed approximately 236 games over 3 years due to various injuries and personal issues. But the injuries were nothing compared to what was happening off the field. You see, Hamilton was binging on crack, downing a bottle of whiskey every day, and had burned through his entire $4 million signing bonus. The kid who was supposed to be the next Mickey Mantle was now a skeletal junkie that his own family couldn't recognize. And this wasn't some random Tuesday night relapse. Over the next few years, Hamilton had been bouncing between trailer homes where he'd collapse onto the floor with other addicts, and posh rehab centers where he failed time and again. Hamilton was even using...
If you're living with severe alopecia areata, is
It's time to grow out loud. With Lit Fulo from
during the season and acting out the paranoid life of a junkie. We're talking about a guy who went from hitting .301 with 13 home runs in professional baseball to living in crack houses with complete strangers. So the Devil Rays, desperate to save their investment, checked their young prospect into the Betty Ford Rehab Center. And it didn't work. In 2003, Hamilton failed a drug test, and it became clear that the team's efforts had resulted in little change to his destructive behavior. The suspension that followed was just the beginning. In February 2004, Hamilton was banned indefinitely from baseball for violating the league's joint drug treatment and prevention program. The number overall pick, the can't-miss prospect, was done. At least that's what everyone thought. But Hamilton's addiction only got worse. He found himself in what
Get off
later
the
described as
weed.
the hellhole he lived in. The lowest point came in October of 2005, during what would be his final crack binge. Picture this scene. It's early morning, and Josh Hamilton is lying on his grandmother's doorstep, his body nearly completely wasted away. This was the moment he later said he thought he was going to die. Hamilton had just woken up in a trailer surrounded by strangers, people he didn't even know, after another crack binge. Confused, lost, and with nowhere else to turn, he stumbled to his grandmother Mary Holt's doorstep. When she opened the door, his own grandmother, the woman who had helped raise him, didn't even recognize him. Mary Holt's grandson had been a chiseled athlete, 6'4", 234 pounds, who could hit the ball a mile and run like a gazelle. But that night, he was down to 180, cheeks sunken, eyes glazed over, his rail-thin body a complete mess. Crack cocaine had literally eaten him alive from the inside out. Hamilton later recalled, "It felt like my soul left my body when I first got hurt. It was one of the saddest moments I've ever experienced as an individual." Hamilton had also already attempted suicide multiple times by this point. The #1 draft pick was literally ready to end his life because the addiction had consumed everything. So in 2005, when the Devil Rays placed him on waivers, every single MLB team passed on it. He could have been claimed for just $20,000. $20,000 for a former #1 overall pick. That's how far he had fallen. But this is where Josh Hamilton's story gets absolutely insane. In June 2006, Josh Hamilton received the news that Major League Baseball had reinstated his eligibility. After missing nearly 3 full seasons, he was allowed to return to organized baseball. Hamilton later described what happened during his recovery, saying a few weeks later, his nightmare returned. But this time, as Hamilton tells the story, when fighting the devil, there was another fighting besides him, Jesus Christ. Now, whether you believe in the spiritual aspect or not, something fundamental changed in Josh Hamilton during this period. He had been clean for months, working construction jobs and playing in independent leagues just to stay connected to baseball. Then, in December 2006, the Cincinnati Reds selected Hamilton in the Rule 5 draft. Now, this was a massive risk for Cincinnati because Rule 5 picks have to stay on the Major League roster all season or they get offered back to their original team. On April 2nd, 2007, Josh Hamilton finally made his MLB debut, nearly 9 years after being drafted. He was 25 years old, an age when most top prospects are already established stars. And what's crazy is that the numbers from his debut season were nothing short of remarkable. He was slashing .292, .368, and .554 with 19 home runs and 47 RBIs in just 90 games. Hamilton described his mindset during his comeback. I've been called the biggest surprise in baseball this year, and I can't argue with that. If you think about it, how many people have gone from being a crack addict to succeeding at anything, especially something as demanding as Major League Baseball? Now, at the end of 2007, the Reds traded Hamilton to the Texas Rangers, a move that would define the rest of his career. The Rangers saw something special in this reacclimation project. Fast forward to 2008, and that's when Josh Hamilton announced himself to the baseball world in the most spectacular way possible. Playing his first full season with the Rangers, Hamilton hit .304, .371, and .530 with 32 home runs and a league-leading 130 RBIs. He made his first All-Star team and was selected for the Home Run Derby at Yankee Stadium. But here's where the story gets absolutely insane. Before the Derby, Hamilton jokingly told reporters he wanted to launch one out of the ballpark. Quote, "You know that little opening in right field, right there where you can see the subway? Watch out." And what happened next became the stuff of legend. In the first round of the 2008 Home Run Derby, Josh Hamilton hit 28 home runs, breaking Bobby Abreu's previous record of 24. But here's the mind-blowing part. He hit 13 consecutive home runs at one point. The crowd at Yankee Stadium was going absolutely wild. They were chanting his name, getting louder and louder. Hamilton later said, "The whole stadium The way the people responded, higher and higher, you can't beat it. Them chanting my name and getting louder, it makes you more focused. 7 of his home runs went at least 500 feet, including a 518-foot blast that hit the back wall of the bleachers. His 28 homers in the first round totaled 12,458 feet. That's an average of 445 feet each bomb. Now, to put this into perspective, none of the other participants hit more than 8 home runs in the first round, and Hamilton had hit 28. And the moment was even more special when you consider the backstory. Hamilton's batting practice pitcher was Clay Counsell, a 71-year-old volunteer coach who had thrown batting practice to Hamilton when he was a teenager in North Carolina. Now, unfortunately, Hamilton ran out of gas in the finals and lost to Justin Morneau 5-3. But nobody cared. That night belonged to Josh Hamilton. As ESPN would later write, his first round still stands as a home run derby masterpiece. Fast forward to 2010, and that was the year that Josh Hamilton reached the absolute pinnacle of baseball. He slashed 359, 411, 633 with 32 home runs and 100 RBIs, winning both the AL batting title and AL MVP award. Now, think about that batting average for a second. 359. In the modern era of baseball, hitting 300 is considered really, really good. Hamilton was hitting nearly 60 points higher than that while maintaining elite power numbers. He was voted American League MVP, capping off one of the most remarkable individual seasons in recent memory. The Rangers won their first AL pennant and made it to the World Series. So, from crack addict lying on his grandmother's doorstep to AL MVP in 5 years. So, from crack addict in memory. The Rangers won their first AL pennant and made it to the World Series. So, from crack addict lying on his grandmother's doorstep to AL MVP in 5 years. It's one of the most incredible redemption stories in sports history. In 2011, Hamilton continued his elite play, helping the Rangers reach their second consecutive World Series. Then he signed a 2-year, $24 million play. The Rangers reached their second consecutive World Series. Then he signed a 2-year, $24 million contract, and it seemed like his demons were behind him forever. Hamilton was being drug tested 3 times a week and passing every single test. He said he looked forward to the tests because he knew they would come up negative. Then came the contract that would change everything. Following the 2012 season, Josh Hamilton became a free agent. Then on December 13th, 2012, he agreed to a 5-year, $125 million contract with the Los Angeles Angels. This was supposed to be the Angels' final piece to their championship puzzle. They already had Albert Pujols, Mike Trout was an emerging superstar, and they were adding a former MVP to the mix. That deal became official on December 15th. But from day one, something was wrong.
He looks rough,
season with the Angels, Hamilton played in 151 games, but hit just 250 with 21 home runs and 79 RBIs. His .308 on-base percentage was terrible, and he struck out a whopping 158 times. Compare that to his Rangers performance, where he slashed 304, 364, 549 in his final 3 seasons. With the Angels, he dropped to 255, 316, and 426. And the 2014 season was even worse. Hamilton hit 263 with just 10 home runs and 44 RBIs in only 89 games. He suffered a thumb injury and a shoulder injury, and in the ALDS against Kansas City, he went 0 for 13. Hamilton, who had hit 43 home runs in his final season with Texas, hit just 31 total home runs in his entire Angels career. But the performance issues were nothing compared to what happened next. In February 2015, while recovering from shoulder surgery, it was revealed that Hamilton had suffered a relapse into drug and alcohol addiction. He voluntarily reported this to MLB officials. Now, an outside arbitrator ruled that Hamilton's voluntary admission did not violate baseball's drug policy, and he could not be suspended. But the damage was still done. Angels owner Art Moreno was furious. He made comments to the media implying that he did not want Hamilton back on the team's roster. All Hamilton-related merchandise was removed and recalled from all stores. And when asked if Hamilton would play for the Angels again, Moreno said there was specific language in Hamilton's contract regarding drug and alcohol use, and added that there was the possibility of pursuing it, suggesting they might try to void the contract. Before the home opener, Moreno declined to say Hamilton would play for his team again and said he hadn't spoken to Hamilton since the end of the 2014 season. When asked why, Moreno said probability disappointment. Wow. On April 27, 2015, Hamilton was then traded back to the Texas Rangers for a player to be named later or cash. But here's the insane part. The Angels agreed to pay most of the remaining $80 million that Hamilton was owed under the contract. Texas would pay under $7 million of what Hamilton was owed, meaning the Angels were essentially paying Hamilton $75 million to go play for another team. Angels GM Jerry DiPoto summed it up perfectly. Josh, from the moment he arrived here, there's been turbulence. If I could put my finger on why Josh had a tough time here, we may have been able to help him solve those issues. When Hamilton was asked about Moreno's comments regarding disappointment, he said simply, yeah, I have no clue what he's talking about. Now, till this day, the Angels' $125 million investment is widely regarded as one of the worst free agent signings in MLB history. Something that, honestly, as of late, they are becoming famous for, cough cough, Anthony Rendon. But getting back to the story, Hamilton's return to Texas was emotional but brief. On May 25th, 2015, he was inserted into the starting lineup in Cleveland and recorded his first hit back with the Rangers. When he returned to Texas for the first time, he received a standing ovation and hit a double on the very first pitch he saw. But unfortunately, the magic was gone. Injuries continued to plague him, and he played just one season with the Rangers before his career effectively ended. In 2017, while rehabbing a knee injury, Hamilton would injure his other knee, leading the Rangers to release him from his minor league contract. Now, the story takes an even darker turn in 2019 when Hamilton was charged with a felony for allegedly assaulting his daughter. On February 22nd, 2022, Hamilton would plead guilty on unlawful restraint. This was the final blow to any hopes of a comeback or rehabilitation of his image. And by summer 2024, no team had picked up Hamilton, and he remained out of organized baseball. So what happened? How does someone go from the #1 overall pick to AL MVP to completely out of baseball by age 34? Well, the easy answer is addiction, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Hamilton himself said it best. I live by a simple philosophy. Nobody can insult me as much as I've insulted myself. The addiction was real and devastating, but there were other factors. His first surgery in 2019 was botched. When he re-injured his quad with Miami, team doctors told him the original surgery was probably better suited for a 90-year-old woman, not a 26-year-old athlete. The surgery had completely failed to even hook up the torn tendon like it was supposed to. Hamilton never felt right after that first surgery. Getting out of bed in the morning felt like there was a knife stuck in his knee. But the real issue was psychological. Hamilton struggled with the pressure and expectations that came with his talent and his comeback story. Every day, people approached him about addiction and recovery. While he embraced being a role model, it also created immense pressure. And the move to Los Angeles took him away from his support system in Texas. The expectations of a $125 million contract weighed heavily on someone who was still fighting internal battles every single day. Fast forward to today, and Josh Hamilton remains largely out of the public eye. Since his legal troubles, he has had minimal public appearances, and he has not returned to professional baseball in any capacity, and his future remains uncertain. There have been no confirmed reports of him working in coaching or mentorship roles.
Bye, have a great time.